And I know I'm so curious about this personally, because so many of us are in this place of, you know, and I don't know if you experienced this. I know when we first talked, you had made it your goal to get HerbRally going within 10 years. I think you mentioned 10 years. That was your time frame. And to me, honestly, that was so inspiring, because I'm that person that always wants to, you know, I have an idea and I'm like, I want it now. I want to do all the things now. Just, you know, that's the way I am. And I just, you know, it's the excitement, you know, gets to me. But so yeah, that was inspiring for me. The fact that you set a time frame that, you know, and I think you said 7 years it took you. So, I mean, that's a good parameter of time. But can you talk a little bit about your transition from how that went to being the side hustle to your full-time gig? I know that is a large undertaking for so many people. And I know there's a lot of people, especially being able to just be more flexible with our lives now, given the state of everything. And people are, I think, exploring that a little more now, which is really awesome to see, that people aren't subject to just working a job that maybe keeps them comfortable, because life has been so uncomfortable, you know, which it's kind of pushed people in a place where they can actually go after things that they're really passionate about. And so I'm so curious to know what that looked like for you, because I think so many of us are probably in similar boats, and you're quite an inspiration for that transition. So if you could speak to that a little bit, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of was, you said you're wired that way to kind of want I think you said this, instant gratification or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But I think we all kind of are, and it's kind of unnatural to want to be patient with something. So I'd say, like, the first hack you could do is set some sort of long-term goal, so nothing feels rushed. You don't feel like you need to make bad choices, like to make a quick buck or whatever. Like, I think setting a 10-year goal is a 10-year goal is wise, because then it allows you to play the patient game and just make slow incremental moves. I would say I have to give a lot of credit to how I was able to, you know, jump from a you know, full-time job or whatever to HerbRally as a full-time thing through frugality. And I think we might talk about the art of frugal nutrition later, but regardless, I've always had this innate passion for not spending money. I don't really know why or where that comes from, but I vividly remember as a kid, I would just like try to save my money. I would see my brothers spend their money like immediately on dumb stuff. But I really think it's smart to, from a personal finance standpoint, to start tracking your money, seeing where you're unnecessarily spending, start saving that money, building a buffer, so you're allowing yourself to essentially jump ship later on. So yeah, I guess the first two things that come to mind are frugality, watching your money, and setting a long-term goal. I don't know. Where do you want to go with that?
I guess, you know, I was just curious in what made you set the 10 years, and how did you find that worked, and what would you change if you could go back, and would you change your timeline, or were you happy with your goals that you set for yourself and the timeline it ended up being?
Yeah, I mean, so when I started, which I think was about 7 years ago, so that would put me at about 30 years old. I think that was the perfect amount of time. I really do. I think a decade is a solid foundation for trying to create something of substance, you know. Right. And even before that, you know, before I started HerbRally, as you mentioned, I was doing apprenticeships. And also before that, I'm working in a peripheral field, or actually it's very directly related. You know, I was doing events for Mountain Rose Herbs. So I was just immersing myself fully in the community, building connections, working on my own, like business savvy and marketing and stuff like that. And also learning herbalism the whole time and building connections and all that. So yeah, it all kind of played together.
That makes sense. And do you think if you didn't, and I'm going to assume here that you enjoyed your job, given that it was so related to what you're doing now, if you didn't like your job as much, like if it was, you know, if you were doing that 9 to 5 crunch, do you think you would have lessened that time frame, or do you think you would have still kept it a year?
Oof, that's a great question.
It's a hard question, but.
Yeah, that definitely plays a factor. yeah, I feel very blessed and very lucky to have a job for so long that I really, really loved doing. So
Yeah,
that's hard to say.
I know, it just makes me think. And it's so true. I think that things do take time, it's nothing happens overnight. And I think we all want things to happen too fast. I know I'm the prime example, and I constantly have to check in and, slow myself down because, there's just so many experiences in the world. And I guess I just want to jump on all of them right now. But so it's good to be slow. And I know that time frame will be unique to everyone's situation and how long they want to have the gestation period happen for, I guess. But that's cool. I appreciate you explaining that to us a little bit.